therapy alone is not enough to bring about autism remission. It's just one very small piece of a much larger puzzle. While therapies like ABA and speech can be considered important, without us addressing the bigger picture of diet, environment, and overall lifestyle, you're going to be missing out on something very significant for your child to make greater gains, to reclaim those lost milestones. So if you're already focusing on therapy, you might, if you're only focusing, I shouldn't say if you're only focusing on therapy, you might be stalling your child's progress and overlooking some of the key areas that can lead to remission and improvements. What we're looking for with therapy is almost like we're trying to teach someone something externally. It's like we focus heavily on repetition. And when we're focusing on a lifestyle perspective, specifically in the brain development area, our brain is literally made from the nutrients we eat. It's like we almost put a key in and we unlock the door. So hi, my name is Natalie Pelto, and welcome to Blue Life RX. We explore holistic approaches and introduce lifestyle medicine to both physicians and to autism families. I specifically love to work with autism families as that is my past journey, and I love to educate and support kids so that they can then become independent, verbal, and live the life of their dreams while sharing their gifts to the world. So I certainly, excuse me so much. So I want to tell you guys a story. I once worked with a mom who had her son literally in therapy for 30 to 40 hours in a week. She also had a very large Instagram presence. And one of the things that I did notice that she said one day was, it's like my child isn't really having the opportunity to be a child. And that is actually part of the process of remission. So by focusing on such a hard working therapy, we're actually depleting the process of enjoying life. And so it was very focused on ABA. And while this family was seeing very small gains, his progress ended up stalling, which is very common. I have multiple conversations in the world right now. So many moms will tell me that their child was actually released from ABA with a letter basically stating that they needed institutionalization. And what they were eating at home was just Cheetos and Doritos. And that makes sense because these things, both with red food coloring and processed corn and glyphosate, are going to aggravate behavior. So she was really frustrated. I don't blame her. She was exhausted. She was feeling like there was literally nothing else she can do. And I think that that is a very common feeling that we have as an autism mom, is that once you've reached almost like a stalling or a dead end, or what you feel like is a dead end, there are no other avenues. And I want to tell you that that isn't true. Once we shifted, she found me on Instagram. So if you don't know, I have a large presence on Instagram. It's at Rebel Spectrum. But once she found me and we started to focus on lifestyle changes, specifically addressing diet, reducing toxins, and implementing gut restoration and bio-individual nutritional therapy for his exact needs and brain development nutrients, things started to change. His energy levels improved first. He became more aware. His meltdowns decreased, and his levels and the skills that he was learning in therapy, they were actually beginning to stick. So it wasn't like this repetition was just being focused on another part of the brain. In case you didn't know, repetition and memory are actually different parts of the brain. If you ever read The Power of Habits or Atomic Habits, you would know this. And if you didn't, they are both amazing books to read. So it was that holistic approach that moved the needle forward. It's like it opens the door, like I said, unlocking and opening the door to the learning mind. So for many, you might be thinking, but therapy is what experts around the world are constantly offering. It's what my plan covers. Isn't it enough? And the truth is, while therapy can help some, and that is only some, it's only part of a solution. And if you're not addressing the underlying internal biological factors like gut health, nutrition, toxin exposure especially, therapy might not actually reach its full potential. You actually will get more out of therapy when you're addressing lifestyle. And it's not about giving up on therapy. It's really about supercharging its effects with more comprehension and a lifestyle-based approach. So importantly as well, many of you are probably thinking, well, how am I going to get to change? It doesn't happen overnight, my friends. So I'm going to give you 3 tips right now that you can start. Choose one, but choose the one that what I call the lowest hanging fruit. And I'm going to give you tips first on focus on diet and nutrition. So number 1, I do like this approach. It is something that we know in the world today, that nutrition, lifestyle medicine is actually being used as a treatment for many diseases, not just as a prevention anymore. So what your child eats affects brain function and mood. So begin by reducing processed foods, doesn't have to be complicated, and introducing more whole nutrient dense foods like fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, and of course to support a healthy brain. This is like nuts and seeds, foods in their whole form. I love to share an approach that is more in the alignment of when you bring things in, it will flush the others out. It's not always about removing, unless it's very, very highly ultra processed foods, then we want to take those out as quickly as possible. But if there are things that you're making at home that are more gluten and dairy based, those are things that we flush in the healthier versions and the healthy food to help push out these things. It's not an all or nothing. And we have such an amazing, amazing way of doing this in the Blue Life Autism program, my signature program. The links are below, so feel free to look at it and watch the webinar. Highly recommend. It will show you exactly on a deeper level how to achieve such processes. You want to, number 2, address gut health. Okay, research, lots of research. Everybody wants evidence. There's lots of evidence on this. It shows that the gut-brain connection is actually crucial in autism. This is specifically to autism. There's a lot of data, but this is actually good for everyone. So if your child, and you're watching this video, your child has ADHD, they're on an IEP, they have a learning disability, this is also just as important for them. It's also important for neurotypical kids. When you add gut healing foods like probiotics, such as non-dairy yogurts, fermented vegetables, which are very inexpensive to just make at home and ferment on your counter for 5 days, and fiber-rich options such as fruits, veggies, and yes, whole grains. I know if you are someone who has been on this autism journey and done the GAPS diet, you've probably stayed away from whole grains, but they are super supportive to brain health and to the energy that the brain needs. And they're also supportive to gut health in the sense that those fibers feed our microbiota. Okay, so tip number 3 is one of my favorite tips, and I'm sure now the world of Toxins is really popular, and some people are just so tired of hearing about it, and some of you are brand new. So either way, I think it warrants to say that it is a huge impact on the spectrum. So children with autism are actually not just usually their toxic buckets a little bit fuller, but they're also more sensitive to these toxins. So the first thing to do is actually not look at necessarily detoxing or obsessing over all of these new products that are now hitting the market. Focus on actually just starting by using non-toxic products in your home, ensuring that your water quality is good. You have to drink that constantly, and your child does as well. Reducing heavy metal exposures to help reduce the toxic load on your child's body. So we went through our journey. My son, this is like going on 11 years ago now. And all the data back then that really was like emerging or that was available was that children on the spectrum had gastrointestinal problems. That was common for almost all of them. And that many of them tested higher for mercury levels, which is a non-natural metal that we have in our world. Now, although it's naturally potentially occurring, we have used a version of this in many of our foods and products for, in my opinion, not really good reason, which is a preservative. But we know that mercury is highly toxic, and now we know that it is linked to autism. Emerging data now is like massive in the toxic world. If you were to just put in toxins, autism, there's a great study from Harvard University or from the Harvard Journal, and there are thousands that will come up in NCBI and PubMed. So if you're only focusing on therapy, back to the original point of this video for you, you could be missing out on a huge opportunities for growth. And take that next step today. I suggest you start to just change one thing in your child's diet, environment, or routine, and see the difference that it makes. Share your results with me in the comments below, and let's continue this journey together. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, share it with families that have autism, and I cannot wait for our next journey together.